How many times have you judged someone, or been judged, solely by appearances, without even imagining the greatness hidden beneath? Today, you're about to discover one of those stories that turns the tables in a way no one expects. Imagine being forced to solve a complicated problem in front of the entire class, just because they doubted your ability. Now imagine not only solving it, but humiliating prejudice with your intelligence, proving that true talent doesn't shout, doesn't flaunt, it simply blooms. This isn't just a story of overcoming obstacles. It's an invitation to rethink the way we see others, and more importantly, the way we see ourselves. Because the world often makes huge mistakes when it judges. Many times, what seems simple on the outside hides a force no one can contain. Many times, it's in the silence of the underestimated that the greatest turnarounds are born. The protagonist of this story was a humble young woman from a modest neighborhood, a place many believed greatness could never emerge from. Hair tied back loosely, plain clothes, sharp gaze, and a brilliant mind that few bothered to discover. On her first day of class, she immediately noticed the sideways glances, the mocking smiles, the assumptions that bloomed before a single word was spoken. But she didn't let any of that shake her. She knew that prejudice was often more a reflection of others' ignorance than any truth about herself. So, she dove into her books, her equations, her ideas. Every formula she mastered was a silent answer to the doubters. Every theory she understood was another brick laid, quietly but with immense dignity, in the castle she was building. The turning point in this story came during an especially challenging class. The teacher, perhaps wanting to put her in her place, or perhaps driven by that subtle prejudice so many don't even realize they carry, called her to solve an advanced physics problem on the board. It was a problem not even the best students had been asked to solve, a nearly cruel challenge, planted in hopes of exposing her to ridicule. The whole classroom held its breath, some waiting for a show of embarrassment, others simply curious to see what would happen. And then the unexpected occurred. Calmly, without hurry, without feeling the need to prove anything to anyone, she began to write. A line of reasoning so fluid, so precise, so confident. An answer that not only solved the problem, but revealed the beauty behind the mathematics. The class fell silent. That heavy kind of silence, the one that shatters certainties, that tears down prejudice. And in that moment, without raising her voice, without boasting, without even changing her serene expression, that young woman taught everyone an unforgettable lesson. Never underestimate someone you don't know. Because some of the greatest stories of resilience, brilliance, and transformation are born precisely from what the world tries to belittle. After that day, the way the class, and the teacher herself, looked at her changed. But for her, the recognition didn't matter. What mattered was knowing her worth had never been in the hands of those who judged her. What she carried was something no one could take away, the power to write her own story, with or without applause. And how many stories like this are unfolding right now all around us? How many incredible people are being overlooked, discredited, just because someone decided they didn't fit the mold? How much talent is wasted, suffocated by the short-sightedness of those who can only see the surface? That's why this story must be told. Because every time it echoes, it plants a seed of reflection, of transformation, of recognition. A seed that says simply and powerfully, talent has no color, no social class, no uniform. Talent is a light of its own, and real light doesn't ask for permission to shine. If you've ever been underestimated, if anyone has ever doubted you, if you've ever been trapped inside labels too small for the size of your dreams, know this: you are not alone. The greatest stories of success are written by those who dared to believe in themselves when no one else did, by those who understood that others' contempt reflects their limitations, not yours. Remember this: no one but you has the right to define what you can or cannot achieve. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how you dress. It doesn't matter if the world tries to tell you it's not for you. What matters is the fire burning inside you, that silent certainty that you were born for something greater. Every stone thrown your way can become a stepping stone. Every doubt can become fuel. Every humiliation can prepare you for your greatest comeback. And when that moment comes, because it will come, you'll realize every tear, every silent night, every closed door was worth it. Because they didn't defeat you, they shaped you. This isn't just another story. This is a living reminder that life isn't a race of appearances. It's a marathon of resilience, of daily construction, of believing even when no one else does, of moving forward even when exhaustion and loneliness try to paralyze you. So, the next time someone looks down on you, The next time they try to belittle or limit you, remember this story. Take a deep breath, straighten your posture, and move forward. Because those who carry true greatness don't need to prove anything. They just need to keep going, to keep insisting, to keep being. And now I ask you, how many stories like this are still hidden inside you, waiting for the right moment to bloom? How many times have you stopped believing in your full potential just because someone tried to convince you that you weren't enough? It's time to change that narrative. It's time to write, with your own hands, the story you were born to live. If this message touched your heart in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Inspire others. Plant this seed in more hearts. Because every time a story like this is told, the invisible network of people who know the truth grows stronger. We are much more than appearances suggest. We are made of dreams, of struggle, of courage, and of a light that no one can ever extinguish. That morning, the classroom seemed like any other. Messy boards, scattered books, the typical hustle of forgotten homework. But Clara Peterson, the teacher, carried something different in her eyes, a silent expectation. When she pointed at Nina, a young black woman from a humble background, and demanded she solve a complex physics problem in front of everyone, many thought it would just be another trial by fire to reinforce an old belief that talent has a face and a predetermined address. Oh, how appearances can deceive. What few people realize is that prejudice often doesn't shout. It whispers. It appears in that doubtful glance, that biased comment, that disproportionate demand. It's just like a virus, invisible to the naked eye but capable of contaminating an entire culture. And if we stop to think about it, how many stories have been aborted simply because someone like Clara thought they could measure intelligence by appearance? It's frightening when you see it happening right before your eyes. And you know what's even more curious? This kind of silent judgment doesn't happen only in classrooms. It happens during job interviews, in glances at fancy restaurants, in the crooked smiles at meetings. It's like trying to judge a book by its cover without ever bothering to open the first page. And the most ironic part? Sometimes, it's in those books where the most extraordinary stories are hidden. But as you'll see next, sometimes destiny has far greater plans for those who dare to keep going, even under the weight of prejudice. What no one there knew, not even Clara, was that Nina carried a past powerful enough to silence any rushed judgment. From a young age, while many got lost in social media and shallow TV shows, Nina immersed herself in advanced physics books, the kind that look intimidating at first glance. You know those stories you read and think, this sounds like a movie? Well, Nina was the protagonist of one of them, champion of physics Olympiads and scholarship holder at one of the most respected research institutes in the region. And it wasn't easy, mind you. While some had abundant resources, private lessons, and encouragement, Nina only had her determination and a community library that resembled a forgotten treasure chest. But those who thirst for victory don't complain. They turn every obstacle into fuel. And if you think that's rare, just think of names like Stephen Hawking, who defied every prediction and became a legend. Stories like Nina's show that talent often blooms in the most unlikely places. The most fascinating part is realizing how the world, so often short-sighted, almost misses out on these precious gems. How many Ninas are still hidden in places where no one bothers to look? If you want to find true talent, learn to see beyond the obvious. Read between the lines of the stories of those who fight in silence. Speaking of silent battles, the next scene will show exactly how Nina turned the tables right before everyone's eyes. Clara, still trying to figure out where to hide her embarrassment, decided to investigate who that young woman was, the one who had left her speechless. And then came the shock. By digging through academic records and scientific articles, she discovered that Nina already had publications in international journals of applied physics. While many students were still grappling with basic concepts, Nina was discussing complex theories with renowned PhD scholars. Can you imagine? It was like discovering that the ordinary student was actually a young Einstein in the making. This is one of life's greatest lessons. True brilliance often doesn't seek attention. It's like rare jewels hidden deep in the sea. Only those who dive deep can find them. If you want to discover great talents, stop being dazzled by spotlights and start appreciating quiet, hard work. Stories like Nina's are living reminders that giants often walk among us disguised as ordinary people. It's no coincidence that great leaders are also great detectors of invisible talents. And the most beautiful part is that Clara herself, confronted with her own ignorance, began to see the world differently. It was a reality check that, if embraced, could transform not only her perspective, but that of the entire institution. Because, as you'll see next, acknowledging your mistake publicly can be the first step to rewriting stories worth telling for generations to come. Knowing she couldn't just pretend nothing had happened, Clara decided to take a step that few have the courage to take, to publicly admit her mistake. The following week, during a special class, she invited Nina to teach modern physics concepts to the class. And right there, in that moment, it wasn't just about a physics lesson. It was about giving the spotlight to one of the most transformative stories that school had ever witnessed. And believe me, there's nothing more powerful than giving a voice to those who were once silenced. Nina, with her serene and confident demeanor, didn't just teach formulas and theories, she inspired. With practical examples like explaining the theory of relativity using a simple moving subway, she made physics feel as alive as a conversation between friends. If you want to develop this skill of impactful teaching, studying masters like Carl Sagan and Neil deGrasse Tyson, who turned science into popular art, is a great start. Stories like these show that knowing a lot is great, but knowing how to share it is even greater. Curiously, that day, it wasn't only the students who learned. Many teachers, administrators, and even visitors present left with something echoing in their minds. How many Ninas have we ignored without even noticing? It was the beginning of a new mindset. And as you'll see next, this small revolution wasn't going to stop there. On the contrary, it was about to gain even more strength. At the end of the lesson, when everyone expected Nina to just smile and say thank you, she did something even more powerful. She used that moment to tell her own story. Without resentment but with firmness, she spoke about the judgmental looks she had received, the doors that had been slammed shut for no reason, and the times she had to be twice as good just to be seen as half capable. With every word, it was as if she were pulling the blindfold off everyone's eyes, including the most experienced. Nina explained that academic prejudice doesn't always come in the form of insults. Many times, it's about exaggerated expectations for some and low expectations for others. A practical example? When absolute excellence is demanded from students of humble backgrounds, while mediocrity is applauded in others just because of their last name. Stories like Nina's expose this wound in a way that no one can ignore. And from there, something is born that no empty speech could ever achieve: true reflection. And what's more interesting is that this reflection didn't remain just theoretical. Nina's speech was so powerful that it planted seeds in the minds of the school's leadership. It was time to stop repeating old patterns and start valuing those who had long been invisible. And as you'll see next, those seeds began to sprout, transforming that school into fertile ground for new and brilliant stories of overcoming. After the impact of Nina's words, the school realized it needed to go beyond pretty speeches. Diversity could no longer be treated like a painting on the wall or a motivational quote at the entrance. So with the courage of those who recognize their mistakes, they created a program to promote academic diversity, focusing on finding and supporting hidden talents. Stories like these teach us that changing is not shameful. What's shameful is seeing the mistake and continuing to act as if nothing happened. And the program wasn't just for show. It became real action. They created scholarships, specialized mentorships, and partnerships with renowned universities. Exactly how it should be. Real opportunity, not just decorating statistics. If you want to see real change in your company, project, or community, start encouraging new stories to bloom. Seek talents in unlikely places, just like Harvard did by expanding its social inclusion program, and watch the impact unfold. The most beautiful part was seeing that the mindset shift didn't remain confined to the school's corridors. It was like a new DNA was being implanted. More conscious students, more attentive teachers, more open leadership. And this, my friend, is just the beginning. Because, as you'll see next, even Clara, the teacher who once judged Nina, decided to embark on a new path, a path of true transformation. Clara, deeply moved by Nina's courage, understood that offering a public apology was only part of the journey. So, in a sincere gesture, she sought out Nina outside the classroom, in a private moment, to have a real conversation. Without an audience, without masks. There, looking her in the eyes, she acknowledged the weight of her actions and asked for forgiveness, not as someone seeking to ease their own conscience, but as someone genuinely wanting to change. Stories like this show that true greatness lies in the ability to recognize when we are wrong. And what was most inspiring was that Clara didn't stop at words. She committed to studying more about diversity, unconscious bias, and inclusive teaching practices. It wasn't just a convenient sorry, but the beginning of a real journey of personal and professional transformation. If you want to follow a similar path, a good starting point is to explore books like What is a Place of Speech by Jamila Ribeiro, or take courses on racial literacy. Because stories of change demand action, not just good intentions. This true and courageous reconciliation opened a new door for both sides. Clara grew as an educator. Nina felt valued and saw that her struggle had borne fruit. But the most beautiful part is that this small story of redemption became a seed for something even greater. Because the legacy Nina was building would go far beyond the school. It would begin inspiring an entire generation of new talents to believe in their own brilliance. What started as an attempt at humiliation ended up transforming into something far bigger than anyone could have imagined. Thanks to Nina's courage and intelligence, the school became recognized as a reference in inclusion and the appreciation of diverse talents. The stories that had once been silenced now had room to flourish. And it's no exaggeration to say that new generations were directly impacted by that single act of resistance. Sometimes, a single act of courage can change the destiny of many. And the most amazing thing is that the inspiration didn't stay confined to that one school. Other schools across the city began replicating the initiatives, creating their own projects to discover and support invisible talents. Stories like this show that when you plant the right seeds, the wind takes care of spreading them beyond the boundaries you ever imagined. If you want to leave a legacy, remember this: every action you take today can echo positively for years and years to come. It all depends on where and how you decide to act. Nina, who was once looked down upon, was now celebrated as a symbol of strength and brilliance. But the greatest reward wasn't the recognition or the medals. It was knowing that her fight was helping others believe in themselves. And so, quietly, without exaggerated glamour, new stories were born. Each one proving that talent, intelligence, and dignity have no color, no social class, no label. And speaking of transformation, it's time to show you something that might just change the way you see the world too. Now tell me, how many stories are still hidden around you, just waiting for someone to look beyond the surface? How many times have you crossed paths with someone extraordinary, but because of their appearance, their accent, or their humble background, they were simply overlooked? And being truly honest, how many times have you yourself stopped believing in your own worth, just because someone, driven by prejudice or ignorance, tried to bring you down? The truth is, the world is full of untold stories, silent talents, postponed dreams, invisible battles fought daily behind the scenes of life, and we urgently need to learn to see beyond, to see the potential hidden in the improbable, to see the light that persists even when no one seems to notice. That's why Nina's journey is so powerful, because it reminds us that true worth isn't about what others see. It's about who we are, even when no one acknowledges it. She proved that intelligence, strength, and courage don't need spotlights to exist. They grow in silence, mature through pain, and bloom at the right moment, just like so many other stories that deserve to be celebrated. So, it's time to change that. It's time for you to stop measuring your worth by someone else's standards, to finally understand that your strength, your talent, your intelligence, they don't depend on anyone's approval. They are yours, and no one can take that away from you. If today, by hearing Nina's story, you felt something awaken inside you, don't ignore that feeling. Use it in your favor. Next time someone tries to bring you down, don't waste your energy arguing. Don't try to justify yourself. You don't have to. Be like Nina. Build results so great, so impressive, that even the biggest skeptics won't dare question them. Turn every doubt into fuel, every humiliation into a driving force, every look of disdain into silent motivation. Because that's how the greatest stories are written. Not with excuses, not with tears of outrage, but with silent actions that echo louder than any words. Life will test you. It will throw obstacles your way, confront you with other people's doubts. But in the end, those who build their own story with resilience and purpose are the ones who truly leave a mark. And let me tell you something. People doubted Nina. They laughed at her. They bet against her. And in the end, she silenced them all with the only answer that matters: excellence. So next time the world challenges you, remember, you have everything you need inside of you. Their doubt doesn't diminish your potential. It only reveals the size of their ignorance. Now, I want to invite you. Share your story with me in the comments. Tell me about that time you proved to be so much more than they expected. That moment when, despite the judgmental looks or disbelief, you overcame, triumphed, and wrote your own story. I really want to read your story. I want to see how, even in the harshest conditions, extraordinary talents bloom. Because every story you share here could inspire someone else to believe in themselves too. And of course, if this message touched your heart, if at any moment you saw yourself in Nina, in the silent battles you faced or the victories you fought so hard to achieve, then join this community that truly believes in the transformative power of stories of resilience. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and embark on this journey with us. Here, each video is more than entertainment. It's an invitation for you to grow, to be inspired, to believe in the impossible, and to become your best self. Every story we tell is a reminder that you are not alone, that all of us carry invisible battles, silent dreams, and a strength far greater than we imagine. So, take a deep breath, stand tall, and go write your best story, because the world needs it, and so do we.